Welcome, everyone, to today's edition of Mixing Up with Mintz on the YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ben Mintz, still holding the fort down in my old stomping grounds of Oxford, Mississippi. Taking it easy. Martin Black in at Shreveport, our co-host and producer. Martin, you had a big wedding weekend in New Orleans. How was it?
Oh, it was great. It was great. A little frustrating. Not everything was open that we were led to believe would be open, but everything went great regardless. And you know how weddings go. I'm very happy to not have been drinking alcohol the last 2 days.
New Orleans weddings, especially.
Yeah.
Certainly understand that. We're going to kind of settle in. We're going to continue to do a couple of shows a week. I want to thank everybody for the support we're getting on this. We'll continue to build this. It's been a fun project the last couple of months. And with that, what we've been trying to do, without sports going on, we're trying to bring people that I think are just very interesting guests, some from my past, but just in general. And I think so far we've been able to achieve that. I really enjoyed having LSU golfer Philip Barbary on, National College Football writer Stephen Godfrey. I had Josh Moody, former Cleveland Browns quarterback. And today we're joined by someone I grew up with and one I've looked forward to a long time. Played 9 years in Major League Baseball as an outfielder for, I believe, 4 or 5 organizations. Fellow Ole Miss Rebel, fellow Monroe, Louisiana alum, I guess you could say. Alex Presley joins us on Mixing Up with Mintz. Alex, how are you, bud?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Man, thrilled to have you. I mean, this is one of those where Alex and I have Alex's cousin, Brown Kelly, graduated my high school class as one of my good friends. And we all used to hang out, before we even went to college, before the Ole Miss days. And so I feel like in the full circle of life, this is the day that I've looked forward to with the show.
Yeah, we've come full circle, no doubt.
Well, some would say I haven't gone anywhere at all, considering I'm up here in North Mississippi playing online poker. Like it's 2006. But regardless, I know you're an Oxford fan as well. Well, a bunch of stuff to get into today. I kind of want to just go through your career, and then we've also got some hot button baseball topics to talk about with what's going on with the union stuff, whether they're going to have a senior season or not. I want to ask you about steroids as well and some other stuff. But Alex, I kind of want to just start. We grew up in Monroe, and I know you ended up getting to play on some really good Ole Miss teams. You were an 8th-round pick, center field, started, I believe, for 3 years for Ole Miss. You were part of that 2005 team that I feel like was really maybe the best team we ever had, the Rebels ever had in school history, that came up just short and lost to Texas in the Super Regional. But you still have good memories about playing baseball for the Rebels?
Oh, yeah. The atmosphere, there's not a better one in the country. It's the best fans. The 05 team was we thought the best team in the country, but didn't work out. We kind of got a tough draw in the Supers with Texas in 05, who probably should have been a national seed and ended up winning the national title. So 3 close games, and we just couldn't pull it out. But that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, I was at that, and that was one of the craziest atmospheres for a sporting event I've ever been a part of. You couldn't. Literally, talk about just packed to the world. And I remember Houston Street being a part of that Texas team. But you were a part of, Ole Miss has built such a, I wouldn't say a super national powerhouse, but a top 15, top 20 solid program. As you said, the fans, the facilities. Mike Bianco's really built something here, and you were a part of the beginning of it. And now, 15 years later, still going strong.
Yeah, it started up maybe a year or two before I got there. The class with Seth Smith and Stephen Head, I think the next season, just kind of got it rolling. And from there, you win some games. It's easier to get better players. And Coach B knows how to win with that system. And if you have the right players to do it, it's going to be successful. So he's shown a lot of consistency, which is sometimes hard to do.
Well, I remember, obviously, growing up, you were a heck of a left-handed pitcher as well as an outfielder. When it came time to pick colleges, what were your choices?
Ole Miss was my only SEC offer. LSU never offered. Most places in Louisiana that you can speak of, Southern Miss. But I visited Ole Miss and fell in love, and that's kind of what happened. So it was only 4 hours away, SEC. So figured I'd go and try my hand at it, and ended up working out.
Were you being recruited as both? Were you being recruited as both, or had you decided you were
the position player, hitter?
Yep.
So
cool.
I wouldn't have made it on the mound, but I was good for high school. But
Right. Yeah. No, I was just wondering where that fork in the road comes. Yeah.
No, I was glad to give the ball up when it came down to it. So
I hear you.
let somebody else do it.
So you ended up you started 3 years. You were part of some great teams in Oxford. I mean, certainly pretty much did everything but make Omaha, building that program, which is, luckily the Rebels finally made it in 14, but still have such a solid program to this day. Do you still follow it at all?
Yeah, I pay attention, watching games here and there, and they're having a really good year this year until they got cut short, and that could have been a team that got back to Omaha for Mike. But yeah, probably the past like 4 or 5 years, I've paid more attention and just had more interest in it in general, just as my career was kind of winding down and in the pro ranks. And I don't know, it's just college baseball is just so different from the pros, just across the board, that it's kind of refreshing to watch.
I want to say, just from a fan's perspective, I'm part of the City Grocery left field tailgate still to this day. And I think left field in Swayze is right up there with my favorite places in America. I mean, we grill out and booze and just have the best people and atmosphere, and it's beautiful. And, I love it. And it was actually ironic this year. Ole Miss's final 2 games of the season were in Monroe. And Ole Miss played ULM in a 2-game series. And we threw down in Monroe, and it turned out to be Anthony Servideo, who was a 3rd-round pick by the Orioles last week. It was his last game ever. It was his birthday, and we all sang him happy birthday as he walked off the field as a Rebel for the final time. So still a great memory for sure.
Blonde hair, in the tradition, the old shortstop tradition, with the bleached blonde.
Yeah, going back to Zach Cozart. Oh yeah,
Matt Tolbert.
Yeah,
I think it was the first one, and then Cozart. So they've had a good tradition. Ole Miss has had a good tradition of shortstops. With Anthony going in 3rd round this year, so I'm sure it'll continue on.
Heck yeah. Well, I want to get into so you played 3 years. I remember you started all 3 years. You were an 8th-round pick by the Pirates. I mean, what was what was the whole draft experience like for you?
It was kind of nerve-wracking. We had a kind of like a get-together, a bunch of the guys on the team that were potentially going to get drafted. You kind of just like, at that point, there's nothing on TV or anything like that. It's only since recently the first round's been on, but I wasn't looking to go in the first round. I went a little later than I thought I was going to go in the 8th. So you kind of just sit by your phone just waiting for a call, or watching it online as it goes, and get the call, and they ask you, if you'll sign in the 8th round for, we weren't really talking figures, but the slot, about. So they kind of just wanted a reassurance that I would sign, and I gave it to them and went from there. So kind of just wanted to get my pro career underway and not waste any more time. Not that I was wasting time, but not get another year of college and then sign for nothing. So wanted to go in.
Yeah, that's the thing. College, you need to leave after you only have all your negotiating leverage when you could threaten going back your senior year, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you see now a lot of seniors are getting drafted earlier in the draft because they want to sign them for way under the slot number, so they can use that money later in the draft for other guys. So the draft itself has changed. But you didn't see many guys coming back for their senior year and getting money. So if you want to get any money out of it, you got to look to go your junior year.
Well, it's much different now, right? Because now the signing bonuses are slotted, correct?
Right.
Whereas when you were going through, I'm sorry.
They were slotted back then, but they're high. I mean, they've gone higher over the years. Obviously, like I want to say, my slot's more than doubled since I got.
Kidding.
But you see a lot of teams, they'll save money in the first top 10 rounds. They'll save money to throw them on players in the teams that may have fallen through, that were maybe had their signing number was higher, so they can stockpile money from the top 10 rounds to get those guys later. So it's I think I'm trying to think of an example. Like last year, I think Jake Mangum from Mississippi State was a senior, and he went like I don't know what he went, 4th, 3rd.
Yeah, 3rd or 4th round. Yeah.
I don't want to sell him short, but like he didn't sign for slot money because he was a senior. He signed for way under, and they'll just take that money and throw it back on the back end for guys that fell. So it's pretty complicated actually. Then it comes so you have to plan ahead and but at that point it was if you got something that was remotely enticing and you aspire to play pro ball, you just win it.
So you get drafted 8th round. I know obviously you made your debut in the majors in 2010. Was that the 05 or 06 draft when you got drafted? 06. So what? So I want to hear about the journey in the minors. How'd that start off?
It was interesting. So I started off in Williamsport, Pennsylvania for my first pro half season, we called it, because the draft is in June. So then you join the short season. Not everybody joined the short season team, but most at that point. And then I moved up the next year, and then did well in low A ball. And then our GM got fired that year, probably because of our draft class, but no. We had a new crew come in, and you had to prove yourself all over again. I spent 2 years in high A ball. I repeated, which was not a good thing. Came to spring training after that second year in high A ball with, my back against the wall. So I kind of just said, screw it. And whatever happens, happens. I'm going to play hard. And I ended up debuting that next year. So the way things work out is just insane for me. The way I skyrocketed that one season, went from AA to the big leagues in 1 year.
So this was 2009?
10.
10?
Yeah.
And so where were you in AA?
9 in the big leagues at the end of 10. So
where were you in AA when you got hot?
Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Altoona. Okay.
Altoona. The roller coaster in right field. Pretty cool park, actually.
That's sick.
I was only there for half a season. Something clicked, and I was out of there, and I was in AAA halfway through the year, and then got a September call up that year.
Yeah, Double A is my favorite level.
What's that feeling like when you finally, like you said, you got my bad. Go ahead, Martin.
No. I was just making a comment. You go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, for Alex though, you said you had to do a second year of high A, so you didn't know if that day would ever come when you'd make the show. You finally get the call, hey man, everything you've been doing since you're 5 years old is coming to fruition. You're going to the show. What's that feeling like?
I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to really put myself in a position where I almost don't remember what I looked at the big leagues to be like before I was there, if that makes any sense. You're in such awe of it at that point. And it seems like something that almost couldn't happen to you, and it happens. And it's almost like it's almost like it's not real at a certain point, but when you put the uniform on and get out there, it gets real pretty quick. But
right, yeah. Before too long, you just have to go to work, and you're just at your job. So yeah.
Yeah, I think over time, you get accustomed to being around certain things, and they don't seem like as big of a deal, and you don't realize how other people look at it the way you used to look at it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no, it actually does make sense to me. And I know that this is a weird comparison because the World Series of Poker is not Major League Baseball, but in a similar way, people are can't believe what you're doing, but when you're in it, it's just what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
It was, I remember I played AAA in Indianapolis. It was the second half of that 2010 year. And I played really well at second half. Didn't really have any expectations of going up. And we were in Louisville to end the year. At that point, Louisville was just a few hours from Indy. So we had already prepared to go home. So I had my car there with my stuff in it. They let us drive over and say, hey, when we break, you guys can leave from here. You don't have to go back to Indy. So I got called in the office, and after the last game, and told I was going to the big league. So I drove to Pittsburgh from there.
So you got called up in September, and you played for the Pirates from 10 through, I guess it was through 13. You did a solid 4 years there, and now we're part of those teams. Big part of
it. Finally made the playoffs in 13. I got traded at the end of that year. I think it was 13 we made the playoffs. Yeah, 13 or no, maybe didn't make the playoffs, but broke the losing record streak, which was like 19 or 20 years at that point. That was actually a big deal for Pittsburgh at that point, and they made the playoffs a few years after that. But
they would lose in that little dinky wild card game every year after that for the it was like 3 years in a row. It stinks. It's so unfair. Like,
I'm not a fan because you play 162 games to get there, and then it comes down to one game. I don't like that.
And you could have like an 8-game lead over the team you're playing.
Right.
It makes absolutely no sense. So my question about your time in Pittsburgh, what was it like seeing Andrew McCutchen kind of come into his own as like a Premier League player? I mean, he was already like there when you got there, but it really kind of came into, okay, this guy's going to be an all-star every single year.
Yeah, you could see the tools that Kutch had immediately. I mean, his hand speed at that point was the best I'd ever seen. And just a leader on the field, played hard, great guy, great clubhouse guy. And you could just tell he had that those characteristics that were going to make him a star. Like at that point, he was still had just come up, I think, in 2009, the year before, and still kind of getting his footing, but showed a lot of flashes and knew that he was going to put it all together. And I think he put it together for the MVP year, and he won the MVP, right? Or did he not?
Yeah, he did.
The year escapes me, but yeah, he did.
It had been 14.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say. Maybe
that sounds right.
But you could see all the pieces coming together, and the guy just matured and built his body out a little bit, and he's not a big guy. He's my size, 5'10". I mean, he's hitting home runs to right center field as a right-handed hitter. You're just thinking like, this guy's got something,
Right.
But
so you
a better guy than baseball player, I'll say that.
Seems like it. Yeah.
I know you grew up. I have to ask about the Wrigley and Cubs stuff just because we grew up around it so much. But Brown, your cousin and my good friend, they wanted to make sure if I mentioned one thing on this thing, you finished your career with a .391 batting average at Wrigley Field after y'all grew up going to some games there as kids. And he said if there's one thing you mentioned on this call, you dang sure better mention that. So what was it like, getting to play at Wrigley Field?
I actually felt pressure to do well there because I had watched so many games there growing up. And I ultimately played well there. So I got to face Ryan Dempster a couple times. He was one of my guys that I liked to face. So he had a great career, but something about it, like we didn't line up. I didn't line up well for him for whatever reason. And I remember I wanted to hit a home run in Wrigley. I didn't hit one, but I wanted to hit one. I remember I hit one off the wall off of Dempster for a triple, and I was a little upset that it wasn't a home run. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, I have a funny story like of how you can get kind of spoiled. So like a buddy of mine that I came up with. So you play a lot of day games in Wrigley, obviously, and so you don't take a lot of days off from hitting BP. Like if it was a normal Sunday, anywhere else or whatever, 1 o'clock game, you probably would hit inside. You probably wouldn't hit outside. But at Wrigley, you hit outside because they have so many. You can't just skip days. And we were out there. It was probably 11 o'clock. And a buddy of mine is a relief pitcher, and we were standing. And we're like, "What are we doing out here? Like, why are we hitting today? This sucks. Like, I don't want to stand out here." And I was like, what are we talking about? Like, look around. We're at Wrigley Field. We don't want to shag BP in Wrigley Field. Like, what happened? Like, let's get it together. This is nothing to be complaining about. But baseball players can find anything to complain about. That's for sure. So
that's great. So okay. So you did. Where'd you made your rounds around the Midwest? From what I gathered. I mean, I always followed your career and certainly enjoyed it. You made a stop, I believe, where was it from Pittsburgh? Did you do Houston then, or did you go to Minnesota?
Minnesota. It was something about the Central Divisions that
in exchange for Justin Morneau.
Yeah, MVP. I traded for an MVP. But
home run champion.
Yeah, so I'll take it. But, yeah, I made a shortstop in Minnesota the end of that 2013 season, and then called on with the Astros at the end of spring training. Minnesota, I got designated for Minnesota in spring, and then got picked up by Houston, and then spent all of 2014 and part of 15 with them.
These were not the Astros teams that just won the World Series in 17 and almost won it. That was a different era when they were going through a rebuilding project. What was that like?
You could see the talent coming. It was a lot of the guys that are well known were there, and they were starting to put the pieces together, and then it was kind of like they got the okay to start adding some guys through free agency and really turned into something. I mean, it was Springer's rookie year. Altuve won the batting title in 14. Marvin Gonzalez was a role player on that team, but you knew he was gonna figure it out and be good, and then Correa was gonna be knocking on the door in the year after. So I think in 14 was the Sports Illustrated cover that predicted the 2017 World Series for Houston. So that's kind of where we were at that point. We were 3 years out, and then they kind of left me off the hook and went ahead and won. So yeah, but my dog's barking. So.
Oh no worries. I gotta ask, just with it being Houston and all the stuff that I don't know all the unwritten rules in baseball. It's such a weird subject, but I do feel like a lot of teams like to get edges and try to steal some signs. Was that prevalent everywhere you went, or just Houston, or was the culture different? Or just talk about what you feel comfortable saying too. I don't want to put you on the spot too bad.
It's a part of the game. It's a part of the game.
That's what I think too. Yeah.
But not in that way. So like a standard way of that people might steal signs that is kind of like, I guess, accepted would be, the guy on second, they figure out what signs are being used, and there's a way to relay it from second base or something like that. But you're not using electronics. Like there's some responsibility to maintaining your signs to not get stolen, if that makes any sense. Like,
no, I agree. That's why I didn't feel bad about it. I mean, people got to change it up. Anytime you do anything at the highest level for millions of dollars, people are going to be pushing edges. That's just life. That's business.
And nobody's a fan of when people steal signs. And you've seen it. I've seen it happen on the field. Like I said, like nothing electronic. I think the electronic stuff that's kind of going past the point of gamesmanship or whatever you want to call it. But there's some responsibility to protect your signs by switching them up, and if not, everybody's going to try to find something to get an advantage in those games, because the margins are razor thin with the talent that's up there. So anything you can get within the parameters of the game, people are going to always be looking to do it.
Yeah, I will say the only people that I think have benefited even a little bit from this whole labor dispute that we'll get into in a few minutes is the 2020 Houston Astros position players. Because that was all the talk was, like the booing, how bad it was going to be. They're just going to get hit constantly. And now, we might not even have a season. I don't know. It was just a funny thought. And not a real, intelligent thing, but yeah.
No, I agree. If I was them, I would have been dreading, as an outfielder, that just would have been just miserable. But people forget really quick. Give it a year go by, and it won't be as bad. People will have forgotten and on to the next thing.
And I have a question for you before we move on from your career. So your last year in Detroit, 2017, was your best statistical season. Why do you think they didn't choose to bring you back?
I think that they were in a rebuilding process, and they didn't. I guess my understanding is that they didn't see me as a part of a piece for the future, so they didn't want to pay me the money to come back. That's kind of, you see that a lot now. There's a lot of teams that are rebuilding, and yeah, it just didn't happen. Like, but analytically, that season for me wasn't my best year, even though statistically it appeared so. So,
Okay.
At least from what I've heard. So the way they look at stats are completely different. But yeah, I was surprised that it didn't come back. I thought it'd come back for another year and then see what happens. But it didn't work out. And it's the way it goes. But
Yeah, I got you. Sorry
move
about
on.
that.
Yeah, no, it was shocking that it didn't come back. Let's put it that way. But it made a little bit of sense from a standpoint of, you want to get prospects up there and start seeing what you got, and their process is going to take a while. It's still in the process of going on. So they just picked back from Arizona State #1, so they're still in the 1 spot, but probably looking to get out of that spot here in a couple of years.
Mm.
So after Houston, I saw there were stops in Milwaukee. I remember the Detroit at the end, because I mean you were there for a minute.
Yeah.
You were in Milwaukee as well. I saw your picture had a White Sox cap on. I don't remember that.
Yeah, that was my last year. I was with I signed with the Orioles in 18, and then I had an out in my contract if I wasn't called up, and I took it. And then I signed with the White Sox and went to AAA. And that was ultimately the last stop I had in Charlotte. So that's the White Sox hat. Never really. I try not to count that, but it happened.
Yeah, I know. I felt
It is your baseball reference picture.
I Googled a picture of you.
Yeah, let's not.
I didn't know how to feel about
that shouldn't be my #1 picture, but it's the most recent.
We'll petition Baseball Reference to get that changed.
Oh, man. Well, I want to ask, so we were talking about pushing marginal edges with sign stealing. I got to ask you about the I want to ask what you feel comfortable saying about the steroid stuff in baseball, because in the same vein as sign stealing, everybody's going to push every edge they got. Not everybody. That's pigeonholing it. But people are going to always push every edge they can when millions of dollars are at stake. And, what was that culture like in pro baseball?
I didn't see it that much, to be honest.
Okay.
It was already at that point. I mean, we were getting tested quite a bit. I mean, I got blood tested after games multiple times. But I mean, the testing's never caught up to the science. I mean, guys are still getting caught, to this day. But I mean, I'm sure with the right chemists and the amount of money, you could probably find somebody that can get you through it. But I mean, I didn't see that much of it. Like, largely, I would say the game's been cleaned up. Not completely, because I don't think it ever will be, but it's been largely cleaned up, in my opinion. So
yeah. So
nobody said a word about it the entire time I was playing. I didn't hear much about it.
That was about to be my question, because you came up kind of in the wake of all of it. At the Mitchell report was 2007, I think. So that really that wasn't a common thing that was talked about in clubhouses. People kind of kept low about it.
Yeah, it was pretty low key as far as that went. I mean, I couldn't tell you, and I wouldn't, but I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you one person that I knew that was doing it. I honestly can't.
Mm-hmm.
That might sound.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that it was like, I feel like that's cool for someone like you, though, because I know you didn't mess with it, and you managed to make it 9 years in the league, but it's like unfair to someone like you who's trying to do things right when everybody else is cutting corners, trying to make a living.
I mean, I'm sure guys are doing it, and some, like I said, people are always going to be trying to get an edge, but largely, I didn't see it.
Okay.
But,
on this topic, did anyone watch the McGuire-Sosa documentary?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it was bad. It was bad, man. It lacked any perspective. It felt like if they made it in like spring of '99, they didn't mention any steroids until like an hour in. It was rough. Don't recommend.
I try to remember it untainted. At least at that point, I could enjoy it. So it was.
Yeah, I think that was kind of what they were going for. So maybe you will like it.
That was one of the better summers of watching baseball I can remember. I mean, if we want to be completely honest, let's not act like Sammy and McGuire were the only people taking it.
Right, exactly. They still rose to the top of that. I feel the same way about all the Lance Armstrong stuff. It's like, well, they were all doing it, and he still just destroyed the entire field. So,
yeah, I saw that. That was pretty good.
That one, yeah.
It's. I guess if everybody's doing it, this is in a general sense. I'm not talking about it in baseball or whatever. I mean, the playing field's pretty level in a way, right?
Right.
It's just kind of elevated.
In the home run statistic, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, there was so much testing going on that I mean, it wasn't even worth the risk at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think so, and I never really entertained the idea or knew anybody that was entertaining the idea, to be honest. So if they were, it was some talks and with whoever they were getting their stuff from. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. So you did not. So you ended up 18 was the end. So you did nine years. I mean, Dick, you made it. It's unbelievable looking back at your story. I can't get over enough that you played pro baseball in your early 30s. I mean, that's like it's one thing to do the 3 or 4 year run, but to make it almost a decade in the show.
I got old really fast.
Something. You got old really fast.
I got from being 25 to like 33 in like 2 years. It seemed like all that was a blur.
I'm right in the middle of that. Damn.
You went from being the younger guy. Well, the crazy thing is that the average age on teams completely changed in that span of time. So like when I was at the Pirates, the average age, I remember looking it up. I don't remember the exact number, but it was in the 30s for the team. And now you look at the ages of teams, everybody's younger. Everybody's, they're pushing guys up faster and faster. Now, if you're 30, you're like grandpa on the team. Like you're the mentor on the team. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
To be honest, and they want to get guys that are making minimum too. So there's that. To be younger guys.
Yeah. Basketball's gone a similar way too, that the median age has just plummeted.
Yeah.
Mainly due to the one and done there, but that's interesting that there's kind of a crossover in baseball there.
Yeah. And it kind of makes sense too. Like, when I was coming up, if you skipped a level or got moved up in the middle of the year, you were shocked. Like you saw somebody go up, like, man, like he's flying. Like, he just got moved up this year one level. Like now, if guys are skipping, AAA, going from AA to the big leagues, like.
Yeah, Alex Bregman drafted in 15, debuts in 16. Like,
yeah, I mean those are weird. Those are the freaks. Like,
right, yeah.
Number 1, number 2 picks are guys that you're kind of thinking, okay, I can see that. But yeah, to your point, it's changed. They're pushing guys and they want to see what they got and they can do it for cheap. And it's almost like a trial run for those guys. And at that point, by the time they figure it out, they have a new crop coming up.
Do you feel like after this COVID situation with everything being uncertain, I mean, the Major League Draft only had 5 rounds the other night when it used to have 40. Are there about to be half as many minor league teams? And is college baseball going to become, even more of a minor league for baseball? I mean, what's coming here?
I don't know. They're cutting some minor league teams for sure, and they already cut the draft down to 40 rounds. And then now, this year obviously is a situation that nobody saw coming, which they put it down to 5. So it's all about money at this point, I think. So they didn't want to, probably pay a full draft class in this financial climate. So, take the cream of the crop and move on to next year. And they probably don't want to pay. I'm assuming they don't want to pay guys that they see that are just fillers within the system. So they, cut some teams and save some money on that end. So, teams are businesses and they're going to do what they got to do.
Yeah. Well, it'd kind of be hard for these minor league teams to even stay afloat because so much of the revenue, basically all the revenue, comes from ticket sales, concessions, and sponsorship money. And the sponsorship money is certainly not going to be there. And if you're at 50% capacity, which I think would be a good outcome, based on everything else we're hearing, like that's everything cut in half. So, yeah. I think it's going to be tough just for a lot of these teams to survive financially just on their own.
I agree. It'll be interesting to see if teams go under from now until then, not having the fans in the stadium. Like you said, like it doesn't even have to be a packed stadium, but just having some attendance for the entire year. Because I'll tell you one thing. When I was out in the minor leagues, we were playing at all costs. Meaning, if a game got canceled, like it had to have been a monsoon. So they want their money from the ticket, and they need from the tickets, and they need their money. So to not have a season is going to be devastating for some of those teams.
In the minors, what was was the bus ride culture what it's made out to be? Did you spend half your life on a bus, or is all that overblown?
Yeah, there was a lot of bus rides. Especially, well, it depended on what league you were in. There were some leagues were worse than others. For example, the International League in AAA was a good one. When I was in Indy, our division was Columbus, Louisville, and who else was that?
Nashville, maybe?
No, Nashville was in the PCL, which made no sense. But
everybody was close at least.
A lot of our teams are close, so you're only driving a few hours, and then if you had a long trip, you're flew. But like early on, you drive 10 hours on a bus, and then you're expected to play the next day and play
lose.
Yeah, but the toughest league I was in was the Pacific Coast League AAA. I was in Fresno. It was a Houston affiliate. This was in 2015, and our flights were like we had to be at the airport at like 4:30, and we played the night before, getting back home at like 11, and then you'd fly, get in, check into the hotel, and then play. And I was just constant. It was like and like I said, Nashville was in the PCL, and you go from not consistently, but maybe once or twice a year, you go over that side to Memphis or Nashville, and it was rough. Like I felt like I had no rest, and it's a hitters league, which is good, but you kind of had to get your naps in when you could, and like figure out a way to rest up and be ready to play, because nobody gave a crap whether you slept or not. They want to know if you got hit, so there was no excuses. Everybody was playing in it. But
at least they paid you handsomely, right?
What's that?
At least they paid you handsomely, right?
Well, I will say that I'm not gonna throw any number figures out, but like,
yeah, no, I was doing these minor league contracts.
15th season, I was actually on a major league contract, so like I wasn't that mad about it.
Oh, okay.
No, I was in AAA. I made the most money I made in my career in 1 year was that year.
Oh, so. No kidding.
What do you ever looking back on the minor, like any particular favorite minor league towns or ballparks that you enjoyed the most?
I liked Indianapolis. This is a AAA for the Pirates. Is one of my favorites. It's a cool city and cool atmosphere at the games. And I was playing really good. That doesn't hurt. Wherever you're playing well is usually your favorite spot. So I'm trying to think.
What about as far as pro? Obviously, Wrigley. We talked about the lineage there. Other than Wrigley, any other like favorite memories, city like ballparks? Anything you preferred?
Did 4th of July at Fenway in 15 was cool. Like you said, the old ballparks, you have to kind of like take some of your modern, what you've seen from all these other ballparks, and kind of throw it out. Like the clubhouse in Wrigley is so small. It might be as far as size, it's probably the smallest in there, Fenway. But the history like overtakes a lot of that stuff, so it's just there's a lot of different things. I'm trying to think of some of my favorite places to play, like as far as performance wise. I like Cincinnati. That might have been one of my favorite.
Great American Ballpark. There you go.
Great American launching pad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hitting homers in that place. That's a problem. You guys might want to move the fences back a little bit, but
that was where that Josh Hamilton, Justin Morneau derby was at, right? Wasn't it? Maybe not. I don't want to say that, but yeah. So I think we'd be completely remiss if we didn't talk about this whole labor dispute before you get out of here. And I know you've said you're transitioning into kind of the agency side of things, so I think you could shed some pretty cool light on this. I've been trying to read everything I can, trying to understand the situation as best I can, and I really can't find a way to look at the situation and not think the owners are the bad guys. Is there even a possible way to play devil's advocate with it?
I mean, don't ask me about it because I'm clearly a player, so I'm not going to give you
I want to know. No. Now you're an agent. You're both.
Yeah, that's a no. Anyway, so I'm probably not as well read on it as you are, but I've paid attention a little bit. So, there's so many moving parts of this thing.
Yeah.
The talks first went underway, I said there's no way they're playing. They're just
At all.
too hard to figure out. I think the mistake would be to look at this whole thing as an isolated incident with COVID. Like, this has been brewing for a while, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of culminated into the perfect storm here. And I mean,
yeah, if it wasn't up next year, we probably wouldn't be in this sort of situation that we're in. But basically what it's looking like to me is that the owners are kind of – their strategy seems to just be keep giving low-ball offers to, like, delay it enough because they only want to play about 50 games or something. And I feel like their strategy is just to delay until there's only time to play 50 games.
Right. And I also think, which they're usually pretty good at, like the average person that's not paying too much attention could see the fact that the players are turning down deals constantly or whatever and look at the players in a bad light.
Right. Yeah, they're playing PR there because, like, oh, we're making concessions, but really you're not making any concessions. You're just throwing back another bad offer that, yeah.
Right. I mean, the initial offer, one of the initial offers with, like, the scaling of pay for guys that make more, like, I did the math on one of them, and it looked like Mike Trout was going to make, like, $3.6 million to go play, like, a half a season. I'm thinking,
like 10%.
That's not happening.
Yeah. No.
You could probably make more sitting at the house if you wanted to than you could going and playing. Not to mention, like, you got pitchers going out there, and they're going to be going out there in strange conditions and
yeah,
an odd time of the year to get hot again and get going. And I don't know. There's so many parts to it that
yeah, no, like he could just sit at home and sign balls for a week, and that'd be worth $3 million.
Yeah, he'll be fine. But, like,
yeah.
that's an extreme example. But, like, just to say, like, and it's crazy. You look at somebody like that, it's like, that's not even worth his time to even go. Like, that might be an extreme opinion, but, like, you can't ask
I agree.
somebody and then expect to make the money off of him. You know, like, guys like him are the reason why anybody watches Major League Baseball to begin with. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm with the players all the way. Just do the prorated salaries and figure everything else out and get on the field.
Agree.
You know, like, I don't know. If the owners are looking to get out of this without major losses, that's probably not going to happen. You're just going to have to eat it. Like, there's people losing money all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
The players are going to be losing money. The owners are going to be losing money. The guy working at the grocery store is going to be losing money. Like, everybody's been hit by this thing. Like,
yeah, that's just it. Yeah, that's how I look at it. Is like there's going to be a loss on both sides. Which side is in a better position to take the loss? And that's always going to be the owners, which is weird because the public opinion is usually a anti-player because they always make it out to be like, oh, they just don't want to play. But in reality, it's kind of the opposite.
Which is odd when you really look at, like, how society typically works. Like, they usually look at the big business and hate the owners and the CEOs of the business and are on the side of the employees. But that's not how
in sports. Not in sports. No. Dance monkey.
But they need to play. I think they need to play some form of baseball this year. When I look at the casualties in baseball, I look at the guys that, like for example, if I had been signed this year as a 34-year-old player and we didn't have a season, like, what are the chances of me coming back next year? Almost zero, I would have to say. You know, or like the kid that was going to get drafted in the 8th round or 9th round that now has to go back and spend another year in college, and who knows, he's another year older. He probably won't get drafted in the same spot, even though he probably gets his junior year back. I don't know. There's just
losing a year in any sport's tough, and baseball especially, because, like, when you're not in that competition, like, man, it's just a completely different. Like, you can hit in the cage all you want, but
yeah, I'd like to see me get back in the box again right now. I don't know what that would look like, but like even in an off season, it's a
I'll throw you some beach balls.
I mean,
you can play Martin. You can play Ryan Dempster.
Yeah. I'll get a Dempster jersey.
I'm not gonna say anything bad about Ryan Dempster.
Oh, dude, great career. Yeah. I'd see that is funny though. Did you have any pitchers that like you just were up there and you felt like you couldn't even see the ball like at all? Like the opposite of how you felt about hitting against Dempster. I guess the lefty thing could be tough, huh?
Depends. I mean, when I think of people that are hard to hit, I think of we had a really bad game with David Price one time. He struck me out at least 3 times, I want to say, in one game. But it wasn't, I don't know, it was weird. It was like I couldn't catch it. I don't know. Something about his ball. Like, I faced him in college, and obviously.
I remember, were you part of him and Lance Lynn had a 1-0 Ole Miss Vandy game that I remember watching that was, I think it might have been right after your time, that was like a really memorable college game at Swayze.
Yeah, that could have been 07. Maybe. Because, Price and Lynn were younger, but just amazing to say because they're veterans. But I remember Chapman threw it over my head one time. That wasn't
Oof.
The thing about him,
5'10", hey, your height came out and helped you then.
yeah, that was about when like they were still letting left-handers hit off of people like that. Was whenever I was in the box. Yeah. That most likely wouldn't happen unless you were a superstar now. But like, Chapman was coming up with the Reds when I was in AAA, and at that point he was just spraying balls all over the place.
And they were Louisville, right?
Yeah.
So y'all were facing each other?
Yeah. But that's not when he threw over my head. He threw over my head in Pittsburgh. But anyway, so I was thrilled to be in the box, nonetheless. But at that point, we were like, it was take until he'll throw 4 balls before he throws 3 strikes. Don't even swing the bat was the strategy at that point in AAA. That's how wild he was. He reined it in. I know that. So he was a tough one. I'll tell you who. That's a weird. 2014 with the Astros. One of the best stuff I've seen just about was Garrett Richards from the Angels.
Okay.
Wow. He got hurt, I want to say, the year after that. I don't know who he's with now, maybe San Diego. Not sure. He was throwing like probably 98 to 100 as a starter with a cutter or like a 2-seam action on it. Just like hope that you're swinging at the one that's coming at that point type deal. I don't know. I'm trying to think of some interesting guys like that. Some of the guys I'd like to face, I liked Mike Leake in Cincinnati. He was one of my favorites.
Former Diamondback.
Yeah.
Dude, that dude could rake too.
Yeah, he can hit. I remember they had him. They had Dontrell Willis when he was with Cincinnati. Like all their pitchers could hit. Like they'd come up and you're like normally like in left field or wherever I was, like you're coming up and in like if the guy's a left-hander.
Yeah.
And Willis, it was like no, just kind of stay a little more back because he might catch one. Those guys, Lee could really hit. He could really get the barrel of the ball.
Yeah. They had Micah Owings too, who could also he could also get some hits.
Yeah. So them and I remember the Cardinals could really handle the bat really well as pitchers at that point. But yeah, I'm trying to think of some more guys. Everybody runs together at this point.
No, I hear you on that. I want to ask, so as you come out of baseball, 18, you played for the White Sox minors in Charlotte. That was it. We're only in 2020, so you're still kind of getting adjusted to life post baseball. It hadn't been that long. What's that been like?
It's been interesting. Like I was telling Martin before we started, I was like, we just had a baby in January, so like we've been doing that. Like I've been, being dad at the house, so it's been kind of weird. Not going to spring training was strange. Stuff like that. I feel like I've adjusted pretty well though. Like I had a point in time where I kind of like wasn't watching any baseball. Like I watched a little bit of the World Series, I want to say, in 18 or 17, 18. I was still playing 17, but at that point I was kind of mad. But like, you watch them because you know people that are playing. You know, like you played with this guy. Like at this point, I'm a fan of players and people that I know than I am of teams. It's
that makes sense.
Yeah, like the fandom of teams has gone. It's long gone. It might not come back.
Once you start playing, is that when that happened?
Yeah, I don't know. You just see it completely differently. Like I was a Cubs fan growing up. Like I'm not a fan of. I guess I'd be partial to Pittsburgh because they drafted me and I played there for a while. I remember teams as organizations more than I do as like city and mascot. You know,
right?
Makes any sense. But I'm getting back interested in baseball. I'm watching more baseball. It's a shame it's not on. Like I actually want to watch it, but there's that period where you kind of just stop and you kind of got to get a little bit of separation, and then you'll come back. You know, kind of let it go, and then let it come back to you. Kind of the standard. Let the girl go and let her come back.
Yeah.
Kind of what we've been doing. So
you're in Sarasota now, but you said you're moving back to Pittsburgh. Is that what's on the horizon?
Yeah, my wife's family is from down there, or south of Pittsburgh. That's why I said down there. So we're gonna head up that way and see what happens. Great city, great people, interesting city, very unique. So I'm excited to see. It's gonna be completely different than here, but I mean, we got sunshine every day here. It's if you like that kind of thing, beaches. But yeah, Pittsburgh's a little more like Gotham City, so we'll see what happens. I like Pittsburgh a lot. I'm a fan. Otherwise, I wouldn't be going there. So it's gonna be cool. We're gonna see what happens.
Do you ever get to make it back? You get back to Monroe at all to see family at all?
Yeah, my sister's in Monroe. My parents are in Ruston, so we come back a couple times a year. We'll come back more now that we'll be in. So, and I'm not playing, so like we only had a small window to come home. So now I can come back and see family. You miss a lot. It's insane. Like when you can't go anywhere for half the year at least. Nieces and nephews get older. Everything happens and you're not really a part of it. So it's kind of trying to do some of the stuff that I didn't get to do while I played that probably a lot of people don't really think, they don't know life without. So just catching up, slow down a little bit.
Well, I know one thing. Next spring, we'll stay in touch because whenever you make a springtime North Louisiana trip, we're going to host you out in left field at our tailgate and let you be a Ole Miss baseball fan. Grow out with us one day. Bring the family out there. We have a big family too. Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun having you from that perspective on it.
Yeah, we can do that for sure. That'd be awesome.
It's certainly one of my favorite places. Well, Alex, I just really want to thank you for the time, man. I know you're a busy man. We really just I've looked forward to this for a long time. It's crazy because I remember me and you and Brown hanging out at his apartment. Like it feels like it was 5 years ago when it was 20.
Yeah, it was a long time.
I mean, I look back and it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. We're eating Johnny's Pizza, playing video games, playing MLB, and now we're sitting here talking about looking back on your 10 years in pro. This whole thing's surreal to me.
It's a shocking amount of time that passed. You really sit down and think about it. So time flies, right? Like they say. Yeah, a whole career went by in that span of time. Now we're here talking about it. So.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Because there's no other profession, and I know we're signing off. I just want to make one last point. That's really weird that there's no other profession where at 32 you're starting to think about what you're going to do after it. So yeah, no, I have the utmost respect for the lifespan of an athlete. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much for giving it this time. I had a lot of fun. Really appreciated your insight on everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll be looking forward.
Are you on? I know you're pretty low key. You've always been a pretty low key dude. Are you on Twitter or any of that stuff, or you kind of stay away from all that?
Instagram. I just joined Facebook again since 2004. I took like a 16-year hiatus on Facebook. I'm about to take.
Man, I think you should probably keep that hiatus going.
Yeah, that'd be the one I would continue.
But yeah, no Twitter. I don't like to just like. I don't give my opinion a whole lot, but I just kind of
smart.
I observe.
But that's kind of how I always remembered you. You were always like low key, chill, did things the right way though. That was kind of always how your personality was, and clearly it's taken you a long way in life. So keep doing what you're doing, and thank you again for your time, Alex. And we'll stay in touch. I'm gonna follow up with you on the Swayze thing though. We're gonna get you up here for a baseball weekend next spring if we can pull that off for sure.
Yeah, for sure. We need to get Lane Kiffin out in left field. I want to hang out.
Yeah.
Lane.
I kind of think we're going to be the University of Mississippi Land Sharks at that point, but I think that's what's coming. But regardless, the school's still going to be going on, and there's still going to be baseball being played. So
that's it.
Hey, at this day and age, that's good enough for me.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks again, Alex. Appreciate your time, man. And we'll have this will be posted very soon. And take it easy, man. Congrats on the new addition to the family too.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks.
Alex Presley, former Ole Miss Rebel, Neville Tiger, Pittsburgh Pirate, Houston Astro, Milwaukee Brewer, Detroit Tiger, and Minnesota Twin. I think I got it all. I nailed it, right?
That's pretty impressive.
Thanks, Alex.
There you go. There you go. Well, thanks again to Alex. We'll thank our listeners. Please continue to like and subscribe. Mix It Up with Mintz YouTube channel. Also, thanks to Martin for continuing to put all this together. Really, really enjoying doing this. Kind of what got laid off as COVID hit with sports radio, and I think this has been a great project building this YouTube channel. And like everybody else, who knows what the future holds, but I feel pretty good about it regardless. Thank y'all, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Subscribe.